Hey guys, my name is Aditya Patil, and in this video I'm going to show you how to be productive with AI driven development. AI driven development is something that a lot of people think that you should just go into ChatGPT and start writing anything and ask for questions, and it is going to fetch you the solution for whatever you are asking and write the code by itself. But the thing is, AI is not perfect at this time, and it is really hard to get right results, I would say, and which is the most optimal results for it. So this is something that you need experience with when you are starting with AI driven development. And I think AI driven development really leverages you to solve problems in different projects which have different languages, which are in different languages. So if you are good with Python, or if you're good with any other language like C++, which is the language most of the people start with, most of the concepts are similar. What is been used into languages like newer languages like Go and Rust and Haskell. Haskell is a bit difficult, but again, this is something that most of the languages have. So, but the problem is there are a few parts, and the syntaxes and the way you write the code is different in different languages. So it is important for you to understand those nitty-gritty things about those languages and use your prior experience with other languages to work on the project. So this is something that I am going to address in this video. This is my framework which I use to work on different projects and learn languages quickly and work with AI driven development. So if you're working with startups or something which is a very high paced industry, you have to change a lot of things that you're doing, I think you should check out this thing. So this is the Rust programming language handbook. What I think is, before starting with AI driven development, you should first understand the language itself by the code docs. Now why I recommend the code docs is due to the code docs are really into depth of what that language is providing. You can go ahead and watch some YouTube videos which are explaining you how to use language, but I think it's much better to read docs and give like 2 to 3 hours into reading what is up with the language. And something like Rust is a language that requires a lot of time to understand because of its absence of garbage collector, still being a really memory safe language due to its immutability and mutability things. So I would show you that this is the Rust programming language, this book. Here you can understand that how the installation process and everything is working. So this is something that is well required when you start with any kind of language and you need to set up everything that you need. It's really important to understand first what you are doing with that thing, because in languages like Flutter or something, you need to set up a lot of things to start with Android development. So you need to spend a lot of time into first setting up the environment and then moving towards AI driven development. So in this Rust, languages like Rust, which is mostly can be done from your new Vim setup or anything, you can get started like easily. You just have to install the cargo packages and the Rust up compiler, and then you can okay to go. So this is something which is different in Rust. Like I would like to give you an example. Why should you read the code docs in the first hand? Every language has a similar concept, like variable declaration is there, and function definition, classes definition, and type declarations. Everything is like basic stuff, which is a basic computer science stuff. But in this video, but in this context, I would tell you that there are nitty-gritty stuff that is much different than what you do with other languages. For example, in Rust, you have this thing known as the immutability and mutability. So you need to know what mutable variables are and what immutable variables are. Like you have to understand why it is memory safe and how it is leveraging the borrow and ownership model in this Rust. So by knowing this nitty-gritty stuff, you can adapt to these languages. And for example, I would also like to give you the example of Go. So Go is one of my favorite languages which I code in. In this case, you would see that there is an absence of while loop and do while loops. It only has for loop, which can be used for every purpose. This is the simplicity of Go, which I love about it. Again, I would recommend you to go through the docs of this and understand why there is only for loop and why there is no while loops, and why most other things are not there. So it is always necessary to first understand what is the real base part of it, what is the language providing you, why it is important to learn, and what are the real nitty-gritty parts that defines the language, which is different from other languages that you have coded. For example, if you have coded in C++, it is very high chances that the that you have the habit of using while loops for traversing something and having a conditional check for that, but that is not going to happen here because there is a for loop for everything here. So yeah, you should know about this stuff before proceeding to the language. After doing the language, after understanding the docs of it, after going through everything and knowing what are the caveats with this language, I think it's always better to go for LeetCode questions. So I'm not a big fan of doing a lot of competitive development. I mostly work in the startups area where you are just allowed to build prototypes and do a lot of stuff with building projects. I am strong on GitHub but not on the LeetCode, but I use LeetCode for a productive purpose and not to solve like hundreds of questions and get it into somewhere and I just feel good about it. I use LeetCode to make sure that I really understand the language. So what I do is you should go to the LeetCode, find the questions that you have already solved in languages like which you knew already, like for this example I'm considering C++ or any other language. You can use that thing into you can use the questions that has been solved in that languages and you can resolve it again in the same language. So this allows you to first know that what the algorithm is going to be to solve the question. I think LeetCode is about understanding algorithms and then applying it into the code. So I think you shouldn't waste your time into knowing what the algorithm is, since you're not here to do some competitive coding stuff. You are here to learn the language itself. So what you should do is first start with solving those questions that you already solved, like algorithms and now you are going to write the code in it. So I would recommend you to go ahead and write the code for this. For example, I was learning Golang and I included everything into this. I solved this question which was prior solved by me in Rust and Python itself and C++ itself. So I have coded in 3 languages for this question, and now I was learning Go for one of my projects. So I went ahead and to make sure that I really understand the language, I went into solving these questions. So as you can see in LeetCode, I don't know what happens in the backend or they use any kind of multi-threaded systems, but in this case I have used Go routines, which is one of the best things about Go. So this has the wait group and I have added those things in wait group and then started the Go routines and just to understand the question how it is working. I know this is not the most optimized approach to solving this question, but the goal was to first understand the question and to understand the language itself more than the algorithm. This helps me to just understand that I know how the variables are declared and how the functions can be written and the keywords. Like I would really recommend you to do this because it happens a lot of time, like you have coded in C++ or you have coded in Python, but you end up having those habits of writing fn in Rust and C++ you have like def and declarations. So this is something, the names changes into these languages. So be really productive on this. You can use LeetCode to fine tune it. So this is how I do it. And the third thing is, then you should go into AI. What you can do is, now you know how the language is working and what are the special things that you know about the language, and now you're really good with interfacing everything, writing the code itself. So then you can go with using ChatGPT or any other AI. Claude is one of the good AIs that I use for my development purpose, and ChatGPT is one of the general models that I use. So you can just go ahead and ask questions like how to write an API server with Golang. So the important thing is not just the improvement in the writing of the code, like there is package main and how you declare the packages and import libraries and standard libraries and how Go manages everything, but it's also about knowing which packages are used into this and what you should use while doing such kind of stuff. Like net/http is one of the standard libraries and a really powerful library for building Go related microservices and backends. So I use all the time. So this is how I learned about how to imply it. Now you know that there is a net/http library that is going on, so you can just forward into learning the net/http docs for Golang and just go ahead and read the documentation as you need it. Now most of the time, if you're doing some usual stuff, like if you put here like how to use gRPC for Golang based servers, this is something that it will fetch you where the gRPC and how you can use the gRPC thing It will make you understand like what these links are going to do, how to install packages in Golang, and how you can install those package managers and how you can work with them. So this is something that it's really tough to learn when you are in the docs itself. You should I think it's much better to come here and make ChatGPT kind of a mentor to teach what is the basics of this language. And then once you understand how everything is working here, how the ChatGPT and is providing you what kind of structure and the methods you are using here, when you understand these things, I think then you can proceed with writing the real code. I think you can just get on the chat, and now if you understand how the API servers are implemented, how you can use gRPC, how database connections can work, you can go ahead and write the most of the boilerplate code from the ChatGPT itself. Like if I ask it how to connect with Redis database, which is one of the database that I prefer for caching purposes, with Golang, then if you search about it, it will tell you the boilerplate code which you need to get connected with Redis. Like here, it is really hard to find how you can install the Go Redis package and does it exist if you don't know, and how you can find it and all things. So importing stuff is really easy, but this is the boilerplate code about creating a context, doing the Redis database connection, testing the connection out, and then example of it about how you can store the key value pair. So I think this is something that is much easier than doing the traditional stuff of going through all the docs and just going on to write the code. This was the case in the past when AI wasn't there. So I think you should really remove the stigma of using AI and start working with it to improve your productivity on how you can get started with different languages and work on different kinds of projects. So if you are in startup or something which is very fast pace changing, and you are doing a lot of stuff daily and you need to change your projects weekly or something, I think this is one of the best way that you can start with. And finally, you can go into writing the code itself. So yeah, this is the stuff that I recommend you to go through and will definitely increase your productivity. I have been doing this for like 1 or 2 years, where I'm using this whole stream, and I have curated this stuff about how you can get started. So yeah, this is all experience based and it works for me. You might have different opinions on this, which is all right, I respect it, but this is something that worked for me and I think it might also work for you.